Something I've been thinking about a lot lately is how I knew I was trans. If you're new here, my name is Lucas. I'm a 31-year-old trans man. I've been on testosterone for almost 7 years now, and my gender journey only began about 8 years ago. And I've been reflecting a lot on how much has changed since then. I feel like it was a lifetime ago. I was a completely different person, and not only was I very different, but the world and our access to representation and so many things have changed since then. Learning that you're trans is something that's scary. It's also something that's super exciting. It's also something that's super personal. So in hopes of helping someone relate or understand themselves a little better, I wanted to share my experience and how I learned that I was trans and some things that maybe I would do differently now that I am a fully formed version of myself. So we're talking about all things gender. So if that's not for you, please go away. And if that is for you, I really hope this helps. Let's start at the very beginning. A very good place to start. I grew up in the 90s, so I grew up socialized female. I had a lot of friends who were girls. I was perfectly comfortable being I was dressing up as Disney princesses. I was doing it all. I mean, I had a tomboy phase like a lot of people do. As soon as I tried to play baseball, I was like, oh, this isn't for me. I don't need any of this. But I do remember as a kid in various phases of my life feeling like I was different. And I didn't really think about why or what made me different. I just kind of was like, yeah, well, I'm a little different from these people. And for a while, I just assumed that it was because I was always a chubby kid, so I always just thought like my discomfort in my body was coming from being chubby. I never thought about the fact that it could be related to my gender. I always just thought, when I'm skinny, I won't feel this way anymore. Fast forward to my last year of high school, I got really into fitness and I became skinny. And I still felt this disconnect from my body, but I wasn't really aware, I wasn't consciously feeling it. I was just like, ugh. And around the same time, I was also learning that I was a lesbian. By being skinny and also being a lesbian, I thought that was it. That was the reason that I was feeling different my whole life. Turns out, all those problems did not go anywhere. My body was still a problem for me and I couldn't figure out why. I was like, look, I'm objectively hot, I'm objectively skinny, I've solved all my problems. Why do I still feel so far away from this vessel? Around that time, I was also starting to open up my brain to more of the LGBTQ community, and I was like becoming a little bit more aware of my internalized transphobia, and I was becoming more aware of different people's ways of life, and all of these things were sort of happening around the same time. I was living this dichotomy of like, I figured out who I am, and also I have no fucking idea who I am. And that was a really weird and confusing time. So that's all leading up to when I finally started to think about my gender for realsies. At the end of my time in university, I did an exchange and I went to live in Australia for 6 months. And I think just having the flexibility and the freedom to explore my expression without anybody knowing me, that was such a pivotal moment for my, I keep saying gender journey. I don't know what else to call it. So you know when you go into a store, there's usually it's like the left side of the store is for women and the right side of the store is for men. I thought that if I ever even crossed to the men's section, that I don't know, that people would look at me funny, or like, I don't know, I was worried about what people would think if I were to be shopping on the men's section. One of the first weeks that I was living in Australia, I was shopping and I finally decided that I was gonna buy a pair of men's pants. I thought they were so cool. I went over to the men's section of the store and I was like, I don't care. I don't care if this makes me feel weird. I like these pants. I'm going to buy these pants. And so I bought my first pair of men's pants. Oh, fuck yeah, this is great. I feel confident that I actually had the balls to buy the pants or even to like go to that section of the store and feel confident enough to try them on. And then it sort of snowballed from there. I remember not too long after, I was like, oh, what about the underwear? And so it was really the buying of men's underwear that pushed me over the edge to actually starting to like research and understand transness and what it means to be trans and what the fuck to do now. And all that stuff was all ignited by one pair of underwear. And that was really early in my time in Australia. So I was using that time away from everybody that I knew to experiment. I experimented with my gender expression. I experimented with packing. I experimented with just pronouns. I was trying all kinds of different stuff. But once I finally like admitted to myself, like, yes, I am trans. Yes, I have to do something about this. Otherwise I will not be happy. I started to look into the actual process of like, what does it take to get on testosterone in Ontario? Again, I was so afraid to do deep research, so I maybe kind of just like skimmed the surface. I was like, okay, that's my answer. Let's do it. Don't talk to me anymore. So what I learned was that I had to go to therapy and I needed to have a therapist write me a letter in order to get a reference to a doctor to then finally get prescribed testosterone. So I started with therapy. I wasn't really aware of how useful therapy could have been at the time. I was really just like, okay, I think I'm a man. Can you validate that, please? I didn't take a lot of time to like experiment with different forms of masculinity. I didn't take time to understand what masculinity looked like for me. I didn't really do any of that. I knew what masculinity looked like to the masses, and I was like, I should be that. I felt like I needed to become man immediately. You know, once I finally got prescribed testosterone, there was a whole other journey to be had, but I was doing it. As I took more, testosterone, and as I saw more changes, it really became obvious that that was what I needed. Now looking back, I look in the mirror and I'm like, obviously this is who I am. Even though there's some side effects that I was not super stoked on. And it's crazy to think that I lived so long of my life looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, that's as good as it's gonna get. When I heard my own voice, it didn't feel like me. Everything felt so disconnected. I think when you're trans, the journey of growing up is so different because you have to learn and unpack and relearn and relate to people in so many different ways than just like the average Joe. And it's really rewarding to get to this point. If you are someone who is in the questioning phase of your gender journey, these are some things that I think are super valuable when it comes to understanding yourself. Watching videos about other trans people's experiences, whether they were similar to mine or different, made me feel so much less alone. It made me feel like this is a real thing that people go through in order to be happy with themselves. Any trans representation is so important and so helpful when it comes to learning that you're trans. So that is my number one suggestion, is consume as much trans content as you possibly can. Even if you don't see yourself in some of these trans folks, that's okay. Keep looking, keep watching, keep looking for other people who resonate with you. And that is so important. A big one that helped me a lot was experimenting. I experimented not as much as I wish I did, but I did experiment a lot. And what really made me feel like this is the right thing for me was trying on different types of clothes, different ways of expressing my gender. And at the time, my only understanding of how I could express my gender was with my clothes. So when it came to buying my first pair of men's underwear or buying my first men's t-shirt, those were things that were hugely gender affirming for me. I would experiment as much as you possibly can, as much as you feel comfortable, but try on different pronouns, try on different clothes, try on different hair. Think about all the ways that we can express our gender that doesn't have to do with injecting hormones into your butt or leg or stomach, wherever you do it. Remember that there's no limits to how you can express your gender, and just try whatever you're drawn to. See how it feels. Try it on for a day, a week, a month. When it feels good, run with it. So I would highly recommend journaling if you're that type of person, or make video diaries. You don't even have to post them. Just talk about your feelings so that you can reflect on them and understand what's going on internally. I think that being trans is like the coolest thing in the world. I don't know how else to put it. I love being trans. And like, I don't think I'm like the hottest guy in the world, but I connect to the reflection that I see. I know that guy. And that's really neat. And I want that for every person who is feeling the way that I felt when I was younger. And I also want everyone to remember how cool it is to be trans. So, I don't know, that's how I knew I was trans. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. I'm trying to get my stupid little face out to more people. So if you could like, comment, subscribe, do all those fun things, tell your friends, share it with anybody who you think might be trans. I don't know, maybe, hey, have you ever thought that you might be trans? No, don't do that. Yeah, just do all those things. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the stuff you gotta do. If you enjoyed this, please give it a thumbs up, and we'll catch you in the next one. Okay, thanks for watching. Bye. Oh, I'm still over here. Hey.